What if? It's one of the most powerful questions we ask ourselves about the past, and about the future. It's a common tool used by armchair historians, and actual ones too. In this video, I'm going to briefly discuss counterfactual analysis, a qualitative method that uses what-if questions to draw conclusions about cause and effect. First, what is a counterfactual? At the most basic level, it is a what-if statement. What if some historical event happened differently, or did not happen? What if we implemented a different policy in the past, or from here on forward? Just as an FYI, in addition, in statistical analysis, we call the null hypothesis. That's the alternate explanation to what we actually think is true. We also call that a counterfactual. And we can generate counterfactuals, for example, the implications of different vaccine distribution policies, through computer simulations when we have a lot of data. In qualitative analysis, though, we use these what-if questions to talk about cause and effect by demonstrating that later events would or would not have happened if whatever you think the cause of an event actually changed. So we do this all the time. What if Hitler were never born? What if Gorbachev did not enact perestroika? Or more recently, what could we have done to prevent 9/11? But not all counterfactuals are created equal. To actually make this a useful tool for historical or policy analysis, it's best to stick to 3 principles when creating a counterfactual. First, clarity. As with all research, you need to be very clear about what you think is a cause and what you think is an effect. What are the variables that you're actually looking at? You also need to be really specific about what would actually need to change to make your counterfactual true, as opposed to what happened really in history. Second, your argument needs to have logical consistency. For example, you should not assume that 2 things that go together don't happen together in your timeline. For example, if you wanted to think about what the impact of the development of railroads was on industrialization, you can't assume that we just would have developed cars instead, when the technology for both is actually very similar. Last, you need to maintain as much historical consistency as possible. This is called the minimal rewrite rule. Try to just change one thing. On this, one example of a bad counterfactual is, what if Nixon were president during the Cuban Missile Crisis? It's a bad counterfactual because you actually have to assume a lot. First, that Nixon was elected, then that he would have acted differently about the Bay of Pigs invasion, etc., etc. A good example of a counterfactual is, what would have happened if Al Gore had won the 2000 presidential election? Specifically, would the United States have gone to war in Afghanistan and Iraq? This is a good counterfactual because the results of that election were really close. They ended up coming down to a recount of a small number of ballots in Florida. What you then do is perform a thought experiment on necessary causes. If one cause were absent, what else would have been absent? If no X, then no Y. We use the Bush-Gore counterfactual to talk about the role of leaders in U.S. foreign policy. If Bush were not president, 9/11 would almost certainly have still happened, and Gore would have gone to war in Afghanistan. But Gore probably would not have gone to war in Iraq. So that's the short version of counterfactuals. It's a simple concept, but it's often difficult to actually do well.